When I say that you must not force us to purchase supports that are registered, I mean it. If you do, you're going to be making a subclass. It's like, I have had plenty of privilege in my life from various different times and different measures. I still do. But I lack many that I used to have. And the biggest being inclusion. I hope wrap your head around and start showing a little bit more respect, because when it's not black and white. There's not a proper way to spend for disability supports that doesn't, if we're talking about a proper way to spend our money, well, first it has to be ours. If it's individual, if it truly is individual, stop acting like it isn't. Ratioed supports shouldn't be imposed. They should be available, a way to maximize the use of your funding. It shouldn't be imposed as a limit to what kind of support you can get. It's not creative. It's limiting. It's presumptuous. Visibility would mean more to me if it was clear that the people making these changes had been looking. And I don't mean scrutinizing what we're spending. I mean talking to us in a way that finds the simplicity, in the complex. I believe finding the simplicity in the complex is something that I enjoy doing. And with the NDIS and reform, is something I feel like I've been pretty strongly prepared to assess, to address, to add my point of view. And yet, more and more, I don't feel like that I'm anywhere compatible with where we're going. Not at all. I'm really upset about what the legislative changes, how they've been written. I can see through it. I don't believe that anyone has bothered to stop and think about how we can make sure that people are able to be free, to be supported as we wish, without scrutiny, while still addressing the problems of potential fraud and misuse, I suppose. Misuse, I think, it should be addressed much differently than it is currently. It's like people get mad instead of having just talking about it. Like, oh, I don't know about that. That might not be a great way to spend the funding, perhaps, could be said. And that maybe could come, but I think that's the thing. I really believe that there needs to be much stronger discretionary spending capacity to those who, I don't like the word earned or achieved, but to those who have the ability to do so. And I think that there should be a big part of the NDIA and the NDIS that is geared towards that's the goal, in my view, is for people to be able to achieve being supported with the funds in their own way without scrutiny. And that is in no way, that's not what the changes are doing. They're not even coming close to going backwards. And it's quite upsetting because I don't know how to continue. I'm under supported. I recently had to cut off all my hair because I didn't, because of the inability to maintain my personal care and well funded. So let's be clear, it's not just it's not just about the money, it's about the atmosphere for support, you know. And I have high support needs, and fortunately I'm currently, for the past 4 years I've been well funded, but for the past 4 years the NDIA has been attacking participants, and I've been far too afraid to make the use that I was in the trial encouraged to do. And at the same time, I have become more strongly focused on building my own support team, and I self-employ, as it were. And I would like to get my business going and all sorts of other things. But the impact that the NDIA, being a participant, has had on my engagements, whenever I have to identify as an NDIS participant for the purpose of using my funding, or like, so for example, to get reports from my therapist, or whatever it is, but especially that's what I'd like to talk about, is like my quality of care plummets, because suddenly it isn't about treating me as an individual, who I am. It's about having to find out what it is that requires that funding, and making sure that it's documented over and over again. We promised we wouldn't, because here's the reason why we shouldn't. It freezes us, not frees us. It puts that scope of health and wealth and achievement of greatness out of range. I mean, I've had people laugh when I explained what I had as planned, when, especially within the disability sector, in that context. So when I say that you must not force us to purchase supports that are registered, I mean it. If you do, you're going to be making a subclass. If you are trying to protect the interests of the larger organizations, because see, they should be attracting, our funding, our spending, not, we shouldn't be forced to. And that's what's happening. And if that's what you want to do, why don't you just go ahead and give them some money directly and let us decide whether or not we would like to purchase from them ongoing. That's my point of view right now. It's not about, I just am so frustrated by arguments about, like, race. Apparently, like, they want to say you can't buy white goods. That is just the problem being, that you shouldn't be so concerned about what supports people are buying. You should be concerned about whether it is being the funding is being used well to be supportive. And that hasn't happened. Costs can only be minimized for economic costs, which are very important in this context because we have a double, we have sustainability with respect to reducing taxpayer expenditure as well as maintaining and promoting the support for disabled people. That should come, if not first, in tandem, right? Taxpayer expenditure should not be concerned on individual plans. Individual plans should be something that are individual and not collective. Taxpayer expenditure should be concerned with the systemic issues. And by that, we might talk about things like, how does one receive value from the scheme? How does one not? Where are we having problems? Where are we harming participants unnecessarily due to the way the scheme is structured? Where are we enabling providers to profit off of our funding without making sure that they provide support? I got been laughed at when I've suggested that there is a duty, that they are meant to make sure that that's the job, that's what they're doing. That culture needs to be addressed. If you want visibility on anything, please reconsider your scope.